All right, I'm Ken Kellett here at Fantasy of Flight. We're going to give you an update on the standard J-1 project that I've been working on. A number of things have been happening lately. We've moved the fuselage from the wood shop and the wings from the restoration shop. We're trying to make some room for the Spirit of St. Louis project in there. And so now we've brought them down to the carrier deck, but finding a different spot to actually get some work done on the airplane has been challenging. So if you follow me around, ta-da, here we are. I'm trying to get all the pieces in the same formation here and doing some rigging. And so we're going to do an update on our progress here. You'll remember the last time we were putting wings on the airplane, the fuselage was in the wood shop, and we actually did not have room enough to put the right side wing panels on the airplane. So that's been problematic up to a point here for a while, trying to find an area to be able to actually go ahead and put the whole airplane together. We're in the process now. We have to do that because we're making all the cables for the wings, and we'll be making the final control linkages, cables from the ailerons down to the stick. The rest of the airplane, of course, has been put together. Tail feathers are all on, everything's rigged back there. And as you can take a look here, we've got our Waldo pepper decals put together for the airplane, and we'll see if we'll be putting those on here in the near future. But we are making some headway here with the project. We're still waiting for the engine to show up and our radiator that's still being made over in Europe. And our sheet metal work and stuff to finish the project is still in the works. So we are making some headway. You're gonna see me climbing around in here trying to hook wires up. This is where it gets kind of fun because as you can see, this is like a really big airplane. And so my arms aren't long enough to reach over the wings, so I actually have to crawl over the top of the wings. So you're going to see some of that here in a minute. This is one of the least fun things it gets a little scary, One misstep, we really made a mess. Nothing like doing this without your glasses on. The pins really need to come from the top down, and they're not wanting to go in there. And so what I may end up doing is having to put the cables on, once the wing has to come off again anyway. And then we might maybe have to even loosen the fitting, and we can put the cables directly on to it and then put the fitting back on. So. What I'm doing here is tightening up this turnbuckle. Pull this cable up. We'll get into the geometry here in a minute as to rigging the airplane. This is really the critical part about all of this, is getting the wings to hang on the airplane exactly the same on both sides, and to be according to the specs that that the airplane has for the wing angles and all that good stuff. Leave that there. One of the biggest problems I've had with this airplane is all these turnbuckles, and getting them to thread in has really been a nightmare. Okay, so the process that we go through for rigging an airplane, first of all, you have to set up the fuselage. And you see we've got the tail sitting on the table back here, so the fuselage is sitting level this way. And it's also sitting level this way. And we've got it blocked up underneath the landing gear down here. So once that's critical to get that straight first, you know, getting the fuselage level. Then you have somewhere to work from. Then we put our center section on. And the center section is key to this whole thing. The center section has to be absolutely perfect sitting on there. So again, the geometry of this thing, by tweaking these cables and stuff, you can make that center section up there shift one way or the other, and it has to be parallel to the fuselage and perpendicular to the fuselage. So if it's crooked at all, you're going to have a wing going off this way and a wing going off that way. So instead of going straight out. So that's really critical that we get that straight. Then we put our lower wings on, and we kind of preliminarily set up the dihedral. The dihedral of the wings is the sloping up of the wings from the fuselage. On this airplane, it's 3 degrees, at least that's the information I have to work with. So we want to set these lower wings at 3 degrees. And then we come in and we can put these top wings on. And that's where really the fun comes in. You missed out on all of that because we use a forklift. These wings are heavy, they're awkward to deal with. And fortunately, we're able to use a forklift to lift it up there, position it, get it pinned to the center section, and then put a guy on a ladder at the end down there to lift it up so that we could insert the struts into their sockets. And once we've done that, well, it isn't going to go anywhere. You've got the weight of the wing is compressing the struts in place, so they're not going to fall out, and then we can come back and start putting our cables in. Now, fortunately for us, we already did this side over here, so we went ahead and put the cables back on over here. And theoretically, you know, the cable lengths over here should be the same cable lengths on this side. And we hadn't done any of these on this side yet. So that's our process right now, is we're working on those cables over here. Once we actually get all these cables in, get the wings actually set exactly the way they're supposed to be, and there's lots of ways of checking this. You'll see we have these boards sitting on the wings, these red and white boards. They're helping us make sure that the wing is absolutely sitting flat, and we'll demonstrate that. You can actually look down the boards and it'll tell you whether or not it's flat or not. Your eye will tell you that. We also use a digital level on everything. So fortunately, I don't know what they did back then, but A digital level is a big help in trying to put an airplane of this size together so that we can get it absolutely perfect. We'll know as soon as we fly it. If we didn't, you know, the airplane's going to have some weird stick positions. If you don't get this thing right, it should fly right off, hands off, or it should. You know, you'll know soon enough if you let go of the stick and thing starts to, you know, go left or right. You might have the wings on there a little crooked. So that's kind of important that we get this straight. So so that's just kind of a rough idea of the geometry on these airplanes. It's real important that we get it right. I know my math teacher in junior high school in geometry would be thrilled to see what I'm working on today. So I must have learned something. You'll recall we had the top wing set up in the restoration shop completely from one tip to the other with the center section, so that we could make the balance cable that goes from the aileron on this side all the way across to the aileron on that side. So we have that in place up there now, and once we do get this rigged, we'll be connecting it and just checking to make sure that the ailerons are going to hang like right where they're supposed to hang. They should be the same, and they should be in trail with the wing up there. And the last cable that we have to make is the one that goes from the underside of the aileron through that pulley out there, and then it comes down. And remember our holes? These are the holes here. You know, all the rest of them for where the tail feathers, the elevators, and the rudder come out. This is where the aileron goes through, is through this hole. So once it goes through, then it connects to the control stick inside. We have to do both of those. Those are separate cables. And then that's the final cable that we have to make for the controls on the airplane. We'll be able to make sure that we can adjust them so that when the stick is centered, the ailerons are in trail on both sides. So that's going to be one of the last, actually the very last thing we end up making is these cables here that actually go through the fabric here and tie to the stick. Okay, you'll note we've left the left panel off the airplane right now on this side, and the reason for that is we've gone ahead and we've attached the tubes to the fuel tank and the top wing to come down. So we want to leave this open so we can complete the tubing, plumbing for the fuel system. So that's kind of why we've left this open. It's kind of a, you know, we'd be tearing it back off. The airplane's going to come apart again. You know, we can't get it out of here with these wings on here. I know we get asked that all the time. I got it asked yesterday, how do we get it out of here? Well, airplanes come apart, and yes, we have to take it apart again. And as soon as we get our engine and get kind of finished up in the front, we'll be pulling it apart for it to go out into the main hangar. And then it's going to be put together one last time and be rigged, and then it will be ready for test flight. I said before, in the rigging of the airplane, we've got these rigging sticks that I've got positioned on the wing here. And the reason we have different colors is because you're going to want to use your eyeball so you can actually look down these. But when you get down, you're going to be able to see very clearly that they will tell you right off the bat whether you've got some twist in the wing. And in this case, obviously, we do not want what they call washout. You know, modern airplanes, a Cessna or something may have a little bit of washout, which means the wing is actually twisted a little bit out at the tip. And there's a reason for that, is so that in a stall, you still have authority with your ailerons. And I know that's getting a little complicated, but these old airplanes, we don't worry about that kind of stuff. In this case, we just want the wings to go on there and be level, so that there is no twist. And because that twist is going to come back in the flying characteristics. If you get the twist wrong and you let go of the stick, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself doing a slow roll or something that you don't want to be doing. You know, you want the thing to just keep flying nice, straight and level. All right, well that's it for now on the update for the project here. We're going to continue finishing up all the cabling and rigging of the airplane. We're going to wait for our engine to show up and the radiators show up and finish up the sheet metal work again when it gets here and gets painted. And that's going to pretty much complete this project. So we'll see at that point where we're going to go with it, finding a spot out in the hangar to put it together. And that'll be our next video. So stay tuned.